Welcome back to the Am I Rich Yet podcast, where we help millennials and Gen Zs to grow, save, and spend their money smarter. Welcome to episode 12. This is part 4 of our 5-part series on investing. My name is Georgia. I'm one of your co-hosts. I myself am a Gen Z. I'm currently an MBA student and, navigating my personal finances.
I'm Rob. I'm Georgia's dad. I'm a recently retired financial advisor, and I'm here to help you make smart decisions with your money.
Awesome. Thanks for that introduction. Now, we're going to kick things off here. I'm going to throw a question at you just to get ourselves warmed up.
Okay.
So my question to you is, what is one of your favorite quotes of all time? Does not have to be money or finance related, just a quote that's stuck with you, whether it's something you heard 20 years ago or yesterday. Give us a quote.
Probably one of my favorite quotes is, we spend a lot of time in our life worrying about stuff that may or may not happen. And I love the quote, "This too shall pass," because eventually everything just passes. And, right now you're injured, this too shall pass. 6 months from now, you won't be worried about your injury. You'll be worried about something else. And in investing, once we start talking about the news and all that sort of stuff, that will become more important because you have to understand this too shall pass.
I like it. And you even tied the quote into our content today.
I did. I'm not a rookie at this podcast game,
Do you have a question for me?
No, I don't.
Ask me
All right, we're just going to get right into it. We got a lot of questions we got to cover.
In most of our episodes, I'm the only one asking you questions, so you got to ask me a question.
No.
Fire the question back.
Okay, what's your favorite quote?
Okay, the same question. Do you know what? One of my favorite quotes is, sometimes you have to be brave enough to break your own heart. And it's not necessarily money or finance related, but that's a quote that one other thing that everyone experiences in this world is heartbreak.
Yep.
And it's a quote that I say to my friends when they're going through a tough time in their relationship or they're feeling heartbroken. And it just kind of gives you that bit of inspiration that sometimes the things that are hard to do are the right things. And that's my quote. Sometimes you have to be brave enough to break your own heart.
The good news, if you find the right partner, you don't really have to break your heart anymore.
True.
Okay, so that's my second quote of the day.
Okay, find the right partner. You heard it here first.
Okay, let's go. We got a lot of questions we need to cover. I want to do a deep dive on these.
Okay, awesome. So like I said, we're on part 4 of our 5-part investing. This is where we do a rapid fire style where I ask my dad questions that we got directly from you, our listeners, and he'll respond to them. We are going to start off with this question that, looking at it, it comes from one of my closest friends. She's a really smart girl. She's probably one of the smartest girls that I know. And this is her question. I have $100 sitting in my checking account because I'm too lazy to do anything with it. What's the easiest way to make money? To make it make money?
So we'll start with the basics. The worst place to have it is in your checking account. At the very least, you could move it into a high-interest savings account. It's called a HISA, high-interest savings account. And at least you're going to get the highest rate of return for cash at that point. You could then look at a money market account, an ETF. You could do what's called the GIC ladder, where you got some money maturing every year. But as we've discussed, those are really conservative strategies. You're not going to start making a lot of money. If you don't need that money, if you can just invest that money, I'd put it in 100% equity or at least 80% in equity and just watch that thing start to grow. Will it go up and down? May it drop to $80,000 at one point? It may, but 5 years from now, it'll probably be at least 120 or 130,000. You just have to get the money to work. You worked hard for that money, get it to work. That's the simple answer. Don't leave money sitting around doing nothing, sitting on the couch.
Got it.
Get out and do something with it.
Okay.
Okay? I think you've probably, a lot of the listeners are going, I wish I had $100,000 in my checking account. So you're in a great position. Take advantage of it. Make it an even better position.
Yep. But you answered the question in its truest form, which was, what's the easiest way to make money on it? And you said if you have that opportunity to invest 100% of it, then you should be investing it in equity.
Absolutely. That's where the growth is.
Okay. Let's move on to question 2. I want to invest my moolah, but no idea where to start.
We've covered parts of this in previous podcasts. You got to start with your why. What are you trying to accomplish with it? And even the previous question was a little bit about that. What's your why? What do you want to do with it? Again, we're back to housing. Are you saving for retirement? Are you saving for a big purchase? Or are you just investing for growth? Once you've figured that out, the rest is pretty easy. Again, get that money working for you. So, I want to invest it. Where to help? You may start with a bank, and I would use their online stuff first rather than the bank. You don't probably need a bank advisor. Your account may be too small for them. Right now, they're basically not compensating any of their advisors if they're working with accounts under $100,000. And they've recently raised that in some of the banks to $250,000. So they really don't want their advisors working with the smaller clients. And that's just a bank decision. So robo-advisors are another opportunity as well, and it's a good place to start. So those would be my suggestions on getting your money to work for you.
Okay, great. So sum it up quickly. 1, decide on your why.
Yep. Number 2, look at what different options you have. Maybe you've got a good friend who's got an advisor. Reach out to them, right? Ask around. Who do you think is pretty good with their money? Talk to them about what to do. Get some help.
Let's move on to the next question here, which is, where is the best place to invest your remaining income after expenses, which is 1, half risk adverse, and 1, half very risk tolerant, to be able to diversify your portfolio slowly?
Okay, so we got a 50-50 blend, call it a balance. We're taking half of that money, we're putting it into fixed income. Fixed income could be cash, high interest savings accounts, bonds, or GICs. Lots of choice there, and we talked about the advantages and disadvantages of each. Part 2 is the other half, the 50% needs to go to growth. It should probably go to 100% equity in an extremely diversified, low-fee ETF or mutual fund. And then just let it do its thing. You own great companies. Imagine if you actually owned those companies. You owned 100% of those companies. You'd be a multi-trillionaire. So you own small pieces of it. You're in the same position. You own those great companies. You'll do very well.
Okay, great. Next question here. I'm aiming to start my own business, but I'm worried I will make a leap of faith from a financial standpoint and later on regret that decision. What's a reasonable percentage of income to be investing in this personal endeavor?
Good question. Number 1, I don't think you're ever going to regret starting your own business. Now, I'll tell you an interesting story. Going through university, I was at the University of Western Ontario. I was in the business school, and I had a good friend. He became a millionaire during university. 2 years later, he had lost it all. But he continued to open his own businesses and develop real estate and do all kinds of things. Today, he's a multi-millionaire. And so a lot of millionaires and a lot of people who start their own business sometimes will fail on the first one. Maybe they didn't have enough financing. Maybe it was a bad idea. Maybe the market changed. There's all kinds of reasons for failure, but at least they made that attempt. I basically said the 3 hierarchies of job satisfaction are 1, to have a job, 2, to be managing other people. You get more satisfaction from that most of the time. And the third one, which is I think at the top, being able to run your own business. You're in charge of your future income, and that's huge, and no one's telling you what to do. So that's my little hierarchy. Now, that's not for everyone. Not everyone is cut out to run their own business. And there's nothing wrong with it. If everyone was running their own business, there'd be no one to do any of the work.
And different people are suited to better roles in an organization. What else do you have to say about starting your own business?
Okay, so let's look at how much to allocate. On the low end of the scale, I would go with 10 to 20% of your income that you're going to allocate to this new business venture. In the middle, you're going to put 20 to 40% in. And on the high end, you're going to take 50%, maybe up to 80%. You want to leave a little bit of a buffer. You don't want to be allocating all your business to this new business, just in case. Because lots of businesses fail. We only see the ones that survive. We forget all the ones that close down.
Yep.
Even ones that achieve success eventually close down, okay? So, great idea, start your own business, put some money behind it, put your heart and soul into it, and let it see where it takes you.
Yeah, and I like that you put some numbers, some concrete numbers, depending on your risk profile and how much risk you want to take on in this endeavor. So I think that's a great answer. I think the listener will be pleased with that response.
When you're putting your money into your business, invest what you can afford to lose. You've always got to look at the upside, but you have to look at the downside. What happens if I lost all of that money? Could I mentally deal with it? It would be rough, but you rise up, next day the sun's shining, and you go at something new.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got it. Next question here. My portfolio lives almost exclusively in Wealthsimple, FHSA, RRSP, TFSA. Do you have any advice or recommendations on investing through one of the online platforms?
So we touched on this, I think, last podcast. They claim they do everything for free trades, which are great, but somehow they're making money. And how they make money is if you're trading your account a lot. You're buying this, you're selling that, you're moving money around. When in between trades, your money is sitting in cash in the account, they earn interest on that cash balance. You don't earn interest on that cash balance, they do. That's where they make a lot of their profits. And if they're managing money on your behalf, they're charging a fee for it, they're making money on that as well. So always understand how someone is making money. Like if you go into a store and they're selling you an item, how are they making their money? If you're buying a $10 item, hopefully they bought it for $3 or $4 and they're selling it to you for 10. Even when it's 50% off, they're selling it for $5. Well, they only paid $3 or $4 for it, so they're still making money. Yeah. Or sometimes they just want to blow it out and get rid of it. So just always understand what the profit motive is, but try and avoid playing with your money, trading it, doing all of that. That's what gets you into trouble.
Anything else to say about that, or should we move on to the next?
We've talked about this before. Avoid managed money. Avoid someone trying to pick stocks and bonds on your behalf. It doesn't work very well over time, and you're better to just buy the market. You're far better to just buy the market. I used to believe in active management. I don't believe it and I haven't believed in it in 20 years. I pay no attention to it. And I've got some great friends that are active managers. That's what they do for a living. They're always angry at me because I just don't believe in it. I had enough evidence where my clients weren't doing well because of active management. And it wasn't that we had bad managers. It's just that the fees were too high, and over time, the underperformance shows up.
And so the opposite of an active manager
A passive manager.
Is a passive manager.
Just buying the market. Index. The index. That's
right.
a great strategy. It's tough to
Yeah.
It seems crazy that it's tough to beat, but the world's too complicated. You think I got the smartest manager in the world. Trust me, there's someone smarter that you're trading with. It's like when you go to buy a stock, who did you buy the stock from? You probably bought it from a professional manager who was selling the stock. You thought you had more information, more skill, more knowledge than that person. You don't. You're playing at the top. An amateur hockey player tries to go and play a game in the NHL, they're not going to score a goal. They'll be lucky to touch the puck.
Buy the index.
Buy the market.
Buy the market. All right, next question here. This is our second last question. So, I'm afraid to invest my money in tax advantage accounts that I can't access for long periods of time, like an RRSP. I prefer to invest in high yield accounts, 4 to 5.5%, so it's safe and can be accessed at any time in case I want to use a large amount of capital for a purchase, like starting a business, investments, etc. Is that a good way to go, or would you recommend a different strategy?
So if you're afraid, money into an RSP isn't lost forever. You can always take that money out. And if you're starting a business, typically your income is going to be really low when you're starting that business. So you can bring that money out of an RSP into your income in a year where you're not paying much in tax anyways. That's why you could put money into an RSP, Plus, we've talked about, you got more money to work with because you got your tax savings back. First home savings account, a little more restrictive. So I understand that if you have no plans to buy a house anytime in the future, then maybe that's not a good strategy. But you've got your tax-free savings account. So those are all tax efficient investment strategies. Putting it in cash, paying taxes and having to keep ahead of inflation, you're not growing your money. You're basically treading water. And in many cases, depending where interest rates are, you're losing money. Today, cash is paying you 3%. Inflation is 2.5%, 2%. So after inflation, you're left with 0.5%. After taxes, you're losing money. People don't get that. They think they're making money. They're not. They're losing money. They're losing purchasing power. Next year, if they started the year at, say they had $100,000, if they invest in cash, the next year they don't have $100,000 of purchasing power. They've probably got 99,500. They lost 0.5%. And that's what kills you. It's safe, it's secure. You're not going to grow your money that way.
And so for the people like this writer who don't like the inability to access the money that they have in RRSP for a long period of time, what do you have to say about that? Is that just a misconception, or is it?
It is. You can access it. In a low income year, you can access that money.
Okay.
You lose that contribution room, which is why I like the TFSA better, because you don't lose that contribution room. If you take money out of a TFSA, then next year you can put all that money you took out back in. If you had $130,000 in a TFSA, next year you could put in a new contribution of 7 plus the whole 130 back in.
Yeah.
Next year. Okay?
Got it.
But there's still lots of flexibility with it. And at least your money's growing free of tax. Even if you're in a high interest thing, at least you don't have to worry about the tax drag. You only have to worry about the inflation drag.
That takes us to our last question. The writer writes in, I'm 27. How should I be saving and or investing my money? What account should I have?
Some of the questions are repeats of what we've already answered in previous podcasts, but I think it's helpful to really drill some of this stuff home to understand, because it is complicated. For me, it's simple. I've been doing it for a long time. For you, you're probably, okay, where do all these accounts fit? The more we repeat it, I think people will start to get it, that there is a strategy. So depending on your income, we've talked about this, your first home savings account, your RSP, or your TFSA. Those are the top 3 places to put your money. 4th place should be in an open investment account, cash account, whatever you want to call it. Start with an initial lump sum. So whatever you've got sitting in cash, that one person had $100,000 sitting in cash. And then start adding to it every month with what we call dollar cost averaging through what's called a pre-authorized check, PAC. Okay, so those are the terms that you would use. And you can set that up in minutes with any financial institution, okay? Invest in low-fee funds and make sure it's globally diversified. Don't try and get fancy. This is where you'll make, I think energy's going to do well, or I think mining companies are going to do well, and there's some startup mining companies. No, you're gambling again. You're taking on too much risk. There's great returns to be had just by investing in the global stock market. My average return on our family's accounts for the last 20 years is 9.5% a year. That's hard to beat. And I haven't played with it. I haven't touched it. We invest all of our money in one fund. That's it. Yep. Globally diversified, low fee.
There we go.
Okay.
That was the end of a TikTok teaser that we have yet to. But I think you said something important there. This language, because it is a different language to some people that either have never read about this, didn't learn it in a degree somewhere along the way. For you, it's simple. For others, it can be complex. I think the reality is a lot of the stuff we talk about in this podcast isn't that light and breezy. You're driving and you're just having a mindless podcast episode on. There's some important information in here that for some people, it might take a couple listens. Sometimes you might have to listen and write some things down. But I think it's great that we're hammering in some of these main principles and ideas, and we're keeping it consistent across the entire series. So thank you for your time, Rob McClelland. It was such a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks, Georgia.
Can I call this the Georgia McClelland podcast?
Oh, I think you want to.
Well, no, it's the Airy podcast.
My old compliance department gets a hold of it. They may make it that, but we'll see. That's another road to travel down.
That's a later.
Next week, more questions that you had on investing. Looking forward to it. We'll see you then.
And that's next week. But just in sum, the main takeaway from today when considering your investments, the first thing you need to do is decide on your why. And what are we talking about next episode?
More questions. Just more questions. Do a deeper dive into investing questions, and that'll finish up our series on investing.
Thanks for being with us here today, and we look forward to seeing you next week.